Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into a story of absolute survival and defiance. And to really grasp what went down, we're doing this from a very personal perspective, my perspective. This explainer is going to cover the exact story of how I, Chun Xi, transformed from a lowly maid into a completely independent force. And trust me, I'm leaving no detail behind. So let's just get right into it, shall we? So picture this. For 3 grueling years, I completely devoted myself to caring for the paralyzed eldest young master, Wei Lingzi. 3 years, and finally, I actually witnessed his recovery. But did he show any gratitude? No way. Instead, he coldly dismissed my worth right in front of his peers. It was literally a slap in the face. Realizing my loyalty meant absolutely nothing to him, I decided right then and there to take action. I marched up and bravely requested my freedom contract from First Madame Yun. And you know what? Because I had been so perfectly sensible all those years, she actually agreed. I chose to walk away with 1,000 taels of silver, a whole carriage filled with fine silks, and, well, most importantly, my independence. But man, that joy evaporated almost instantly. My little taste of hard-won freedom totally ruined by the harsh reality waiting for me at home. I was met by my mother, Madame Wang. And let me tell you, she is incredibly greedy and manipulative. Rather than being, happy that her daughter was finally back, she actually complained. She complained that the Wei family's generous reward was somehow insufficient. It was so obvious she viewed me as nothing more than a tool for wealth. Well, refusing to be a pawn for even one more second, I fiercely asserted my independence. I forced her into a written agreement to separate our finances right then and there, just so I could finally start living for myself. You'd think leaving the Wei household would sever my ties to their toxic world, right? Well, not quite. Wei Lingzi's immense pride simply could not accept my departure. Get this, he actually believed I was just playing hard to get. He thought it was some trick to force him to make me a concubine. Seriously. His bruised ego quickly mutated into this really dark possessiveness. And if that wasn't enough, during a spring outing, I was maliciously harassed by this young noble named Ye. He physically forced me onto his horse, subjecting me to terrible public humiliation. And why? Just to spite Wei Lingzi. I was caught right in the middle of their feud. Following that whole humiliating ordeal, I actually got really sick. Now, I was briefly aided by Wei Lingzi's fiancé, the beautiful Xiao Qinghe. She kindly stepped in, offering me clean clothes and medical attention. But how do you think Wei Lingzi reacted to that? If you guessed with cold suspicion, you hit the nail on the head. He was so incredibly paranoid, he actually pressed a sword right to my throat. He fully believed that I had colluded with my harasser, Ye just to cause trouble. Unbelievable, right? So obviously, I ran. Fleeing into the dark night to escape Wei Lingzi's blade, I was absolutely desperate. After about 15 minutes of wandering around in the dark, I managed to flag down a passing carriage. But upon climbing up, I made a horrifying discovery. There was a literal stiff corpse inside. I mean, talk about out of the frying pan and into the fire. But as it turned out, this carriage was being driven by Shen Qingyuan. He's this really upright official of the Jingzhou prefecture, and he was transporting the body late at night for a murder investigation. But you know what? That incredibly eerie encounter actually sparked a really vital alliance for me. I realized pretty quickly that I desperately needed a powerful backer. Why? Well, mainly because my mother was actively trying to marry me off to vile men, like this hypocritical scholar named Zhao Qin, just to get her hands on even more money. So I took matters into my own hands and strategically sought out Shen Qingyuan. I started bringing him homemade rabbit jerky and pastries, which really earned his favor. In return, he started helping me navigate my new life. He even stepped up and taught me how to manage the accounts for a little shop I had bought using my reward money. But of course, my drama with the local nobility wasn't over yet, not by a long shot. Tension really escalated when Ye decided it was time to seek revenge against Wei Lingzi. He somehow tracked me down, backed me into a corner, and threatened me. He demanded that I sabotage the impending marriage between the Wei and Zhao families. And to sweeten the deal, he actually offered me 10 gold ingots as a bribe. Oh, and he casually added that he'd completely ruin me if I refused. Nice guy, right? But like I said, I completely refused to be a victim. Instead of yielding to his threats, I took those ingots and bravely stormed the Zhao estate. And I did it right in the middle of old Madame Zhao's massive birthday banquet. When hostile guards tried to stop me at the gates, I literally fought them off using nothing but a hemp rope. A hemp rope!
I managed to make it inside, presented the 10 gold ingots directly to Xin Chenyan and the entire Zhao family, and completely exposed Ye Er's malicious plot for everyone to see. And because of that bold move, Xin Chenyan firmly stepped up as my absolute shield.
Meanwhile, Wei Lingzhe's obsession was still simmering, and it finally culminated in this incredibly sinister abduction plot. And get this? It happened on my 19th birthday, no less. My own mother drugged me? Can you believe that? She literally drugged me and handed me over to a merchant named Lu Fengyan. She was acting entirely on Wei Lingzhe's orders to turn me into his hidden mistress. But they underestimated me. I woke up in the moving carriage, and I fiercely knocked out my captors with lightning speed. Then, just to humiliate them, I stripped them of their clothes, took the reins, and drove the carriage myself all the way to Yuxian. So there I am, completely alone in Yuxian, and once I ducked into a dark alley, my path crossed with Shen Qingyuan's all over again. But this time, I stumbled upon him bleeding heavily. He had been severely slashed straight across the waist by assassins who were desperately trying to stop his investigation. I immediately dragged him into hiding at a local inn and carefully bandaged his incredibly deep wounds. He was so weak, I actually had to feed him his medicine mouth to mouth, using candied fruit just to ease the extreme bitterness of the herbs. Then, following his exact instructions, I snuck out and left his bloody clothes outside the city walls. The plan was to stage his death and finally lure out the mastermind. Once things were finally safe, Shen Qingyan brought me back to Hanjing so I could recuperate under the powerful protection of the Xiao family. But of course, Wei Lingzhe couldn't just let it go. He audaciously showed up at the household, demanding that they hand me over under the flimsy guise of an interrogation. But Shen Qingyan was having none of it. He stepped up and firmly stood right between us. He looked Wei Lingzhe dead in the eye and boldly declared that I owed him my life, and therefore I was under his absolute protection. And just to make absolutely sure the Wei family got the message loud and clear, Shang Xinyuan actually went a step further. You won't believe this. He orchestrated the literal explosion of the Wei family's ancestral tomb. He used it as a massive distraction just to teach them a brutal lesson. Meanwhile, my own bravery in exposing all those plots and saving Shen Qinyuan's life, well, it definitely didn't go unnoticed. I was actually rewarded by the crown prince himself. He gifted me a personal jade pendant and 300 taels of gold. Talk about a massive turning point. But this chapter of my early freedom concludes with one final, fierce defense of my family. See, the Liu family, the ones my mother tried to sell me to, they were furious over my escape from that forced marriage, so they violently smashed up the Cao household, which actually caused my poor sister-in-law to go into premature labor. The second I heard, I rushed back immediately. I brought a 100-year-old ginseng and a highly skilled doctor, and thank goodness we managed to save both the mother and the child. But I wasn't done. Refusing to just be a victim, I marched right over and stormed the Liu family's shop. I totally intimidated them into paying 100 taels of silver in strict compensation for all the trauma they caused us. So, after surviving a paralyzed master's cruelty, my own mother's ultimate betrayal, an outright abduction, and literal assassination attempts, I think the ultimate question really speaks for itself. Am I still a lowly maid, or am I a true force to be reckoned with? I think I proved beyond a shadow of a doubt that I am no longer a victim. I am someone who dictates her own destiny. Thank you so much for walking through my incredible journey with me today here on The Explainer. Keep analyzing, keep questioning, and we'll see you next time.